Dr. Herrmann, I think this question is for you regarding the INC, and then I know Dr. Wood, you're going to have some backup for it. But how do I find a CMT expert that's near me?
So I think there are a few ways. So I did provide the URL, and we offline perhaps if you don't have it, we can provide that for distribution. And on the website, you'll find the different inherited neuropathies consortium centers in the United States. All of them have ongoing research studies that you can get involved in, but all of them have centers that specialize in CMT. They're multidisciplinary centers. In addition, I think through the patient advocacy organizations, such as the CMTRF, other hereditary neuropathy patient advocacy organizations, and the MDA. They all have information on where there are neuromuscular and CMT centers with extensive expertise. Yes, and then in addition, I think for a number of people, it is still a challenge getting to a center with expertise, but we are in an era where telemedicine is expanding, and so I think there are also some remote options to access guidance.
Yeah, thank you. Don, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things, and I agree with Dr. Herrmann. But where I would start is, if you know you have CMT, then certainly give us a call, and we could get you to the closest major medical center. The challenge for all of us is the sad story after story of people who end up on a medical odyssey. They don't know what they have, and they go from place to place, and they get misdiagnosed. That's unfortunate. But certainly nowadays, calling your organization, calling MDA, we have information, all kinds of information about getting you to a place that you want to be, depending upon what you would like for in your particular case. Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one additional thing. I saw in the chat a number of questions about how do I know what type of CMT I have? How do I find that out? And I will say that as was indicated earlier, there is still a percentage of individuals where we, with conventional genetic testing, we can't identify the specific genetic alteration that a patient with CMT might have. For the most part, those are individuals with adult onset forms of CMT and what we call CMT type 2. But genetic testing is much more accessible than it was a decade ago. Virtually any neuromuscular specialist or CMT center or neurologist can access genetic testing for most patients today at little or no cost to the patient. So I do think there are opportunities to obtain a specific diagnosis for what type of CMT you have today that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Yeah. Dr. Saporta, anything to add?
No, I think that was very comprehensive. But I agree that telemedicine has really changed the whole game, because I can see patients from the Caribbean. I can see patients from anywhere in the States, basically. So it makes it way easier for patients to access specialized care.
Yeah, I want to put in a little plug for you there, Dr. Saporta, because one of my friends who I've known for a long time, her son was just recently diagnosed this spring, and you did that. I think you did that telephonically. So thank you so much for that. It's amazing. Another question that we're getting regarding the clinical trials, I mean, there's so many questions about the Farnex drug. So Dr. Saporta, I want to throw this over to you. Does the Farnex drug, have you seen that it improves the nerve function and the muscle strength, as well as preventing the progression? Can you speak on what patients should expect?
So I always tell my patients that I think the fair expectation is to stabilize the disease and stabilize progression. But because the peripheral nervous system does have the ability to regenerate And there was at least some signal on their phase 3 results that the curves between placebo and treatment were not actually the treatment being stable and the placebo continued to progress, but they were actually going slightly into opposite direction. It's possible that there could be some improvement, but I think that the fair expectation is to go expecting stabilization of the disease so that the symptoms will not progress any longer.
Yeah, which would be great if we could get it in children who aren't experiencing any symptoms. You know,
And that's the reason, yeah, that's the reason why we should really aim to treat children.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Another question along that line, if someone is enrolled in the FARNEX trial now, does that disqualify them for future trials, whether it's gene therapy, gene replacement, an ASO?
For the treatment, definitely no. For the trial, depends on the inclusion criteria of the trial. So some trials will have a specific exclusion criteria of being a part of a study. Usually there's a time limit within the last 90 days, within the last year. So depending on timing, you might not be able to participate in a trial starting right after PXT finishes. But to receive treatment, I don't see any reasons why you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and I know with each new clinical trial, they're going to have new exclusions and inclusions, and that sort of, it's hard to predict what that's going to look like. But I think as the pipeline keeps filling, patients want to think about that judiciously. And probably the best way for them to make that decision is by talking with the CMT experts who know what's currently underway and what's coming underway, and to help them prioritize. Would you agree? Completely,
yes. So there is an issue of strategy when you are thinking about joining a clinical trial, especially in a field that's fast developing. Their patients are very anxious to start doing something about their disease, and then they want to start with whatever is available. There are the patients that want to wait and see if there something more specific or something that makes more sense to them comes along. So yes, definitely knowing your options, knowing what's coming, and having a good discussion with your CMT specialist is very important to make a decision to be part of a clinical trial.
Yeah, thank you.